New beginnings are on the horizon for Rockton Road and I-90 in Roscoe. WIFR reporter Bria Walters talks to village leaders about the progress of the Rockton Road corridor project and what may be coming to the area. Bria?
For 5 months, Place Foundry Consulting gathered foundational research to transform Rockton Road and I-90 into a regional economic destination. Leaders from the organization say the work normally takes a year to complete.
Just a step in the direction.
A 30-page report from Place Foundry shows traffic patterns and infrastructure capacity in Roscoe. Village Administrator Joseph Kirklingus says it's ready for the next steps in the Rockton corridor development.
It's what do you as a board, what do you as residents, as taxpayers of Roscoe, what do you want to see?
Place Foundry Director Jeff Mackey says after research and consultation, it could be a hotspot for residential and commercial spaces.
It's kind of a collaborative approach to come up with mixes that really support, what makes Roscoe thrive.
Approximately 400,000 people in a 30-minute radius are potential employees and customers for the destination businesses, according to the report.
We want to create more than just kind of a run-of-the-mill development.
Mackey says this project could keep more customers in the village.
And then what will help it grow and continue to be a community with excellent quality of life, schools, and all the other advantages of being in Roscoe.
Kirklingus says the village of Roscoe has already seen the success of growth with its Main Street project, and he looks forward to what the Rockton Road project can become.
What do we as a village need to do to prep that properties, to help the landowners in those areas to really make a high quality development?
Place Foundry will deliver a development plan next month. The organization will facilitate conversations with landowners along Rockton Road about purchasing the land for development.
The Village and Project Foundry's contract is supposed to be up in December. At Tuesday's meeting, the Board of Trustees brought up expanding it to next.